Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series Core-Class Autobot Wheelie. So this is Wheelie as we saw him in that 86 movie. Let's go ahead and take a look at that packaging real quick. And there you have Wheelie with his slingshot looking all cool. He's Studio Series. There's your opening. Transformers the movie. Over here you've got some nice artwork. On the back you have your product shots and you have all this verbiage down here. If you care to read it, you have your warnings and you have the sad baby. So I don't know why he's sad. Wheelie's pretty cool. And then over here you have Wheelie's smiling face. He's core class. Down below you have some additional information if you care to read it. So that's it for the packaging. Let's go ahead and see what came inside that box. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that came with Wheelie, and it's not a lot, but he is a core class, so expectations are kind of low here, I suppose. But we'll start over here with your little sheet of warnings, and then you have your instruction booklet, and you are left with that singular accessory, which is that slingshot. So let's go ahead and bring it in and take a look at the detail there. Not a lot to talk about on this accessory, if I can get it to focus. It's just it's a gray slingshot. So yeah, you plug it into his hand right there. That's how it works. So yeah, it's got a little bit of sculpt work in there. Not the most amazing thing in the world, but it is his weapon. That is what we expect from Wheelie. So there you go. Not going to spend a whole lot of time with it. He holds it in his hand. So ta-da! All right, so that's it for the accessories. Let's just go ahead and just jump right in, and we'll take a look at Mr. Wheelie himself right here. I think, in my opinion, this is one of the more well-done core class figures. I really, really like this little dude. So let's go ahead and start up here with that head and face sculpt. I think looks pretty good. Silver face, blue eyes, all looking good there. And coming down to the chest. He is Wheelie through and through, no doubt about it. So let's get those arms out of the way. I think that looks pretty good. And coming on down to those legs. Nice touches everywhere. Good looking figure in my opinion. Really not a lot of hollow areas for a core class guy. He's got a few spots here inside of his legs, but they're not bad at all. Really not. Coming up the side, I think as far as engineering goes, he seems to be pretty well done. He fills out nicely, not a lot of hollow areas. Everything comes together. Looks pretty good. He's just a little dude. And looking up underneath here, see what's going on there. And looking at those arms on the outside. So not too bad. You've got some silver on those hands. It really sets them off. And coming around to the back, this is probably his weakest point, but that's okay. So there he is from the back. It's not awful by any means, but he does have this, sizable butt flap. So, I don't know what else they would really be able to do with that, but I think he looks good. And then, of course, you can see that cockpit area for the car mode right there. But yeah, I think he looks really good. I mean, he's a small guy anyway, so core class perfectly fits for this figure. And I think they've packed a lot in this guy as far as the looks go. And moving right along to the articulation, again, for a core class, I think he has a pretty considerable amount of articulation. I really like what they've done here with the figure. So the head's on a ball joint. Now, he is going to want to just naturally collapse because that's part of his transformation right there. But you can see you've got a little bit of wiggle on that head where you can move it. It's kind of hard to describe, but you can kind of see that ball joint up underneath there. So you can get a little side to side, a little bit of up and down, and then of course you can get that full backwards look if you want. It can't really look down, but that's okay. You can take that head all the way around if you want to. At the shoulders, you get up that far, and you get all the way around. And then at the elbows, sorry, just a little guy. At the elbows, you get right at 90 degrees, and of course they're on ball joints, so you can go all the way around with that. If you want to count this as a butterfly, I really don't, but you do have some motion right there that you can take advantage of if you want to. Nothing at the hands, of course, or the wrists. Nothing at the waist, but coming down here to those legs, you get splits about that far. So more than enough for this guy. He's not going to give you a Wheelie Van Dam, but that's okay. But he is going to kick really far, so you can get a full "This is Sparta" kind of thing going right there, King Leonidas. And due to this butt flap, you're kind of limited to the straight backwards kick, but if you swing that leg out a little bit, you can certainly get that as far back as you need it to go. And then being on ball joints, you do get a little bit of swivel right here, but then you also have knee swivel down here, so you can take those all the way around and help with the posing as well. Coming down to the feet, not a whole lot to talk about here. You don't have any ankle tilt or anything. You just have those toes that go up or down, mostly for transformation. But yeah, I think you're not going to have any trouble really getting this guy in any kind of poses. Again, just stressing the fact that he's a core class and he has this level of articulation, I think is pretty darn good. So then just jumping on into the accessory portion, it's going to be a really short portion here because you have your slingshot, and I know you guys all might be really surprised by this, but what you do is you take the slingshot and you put it in his hand. I know, I'm shocked too. I was not expecting that. I had to read the instructions 2 or 3 times to come to the realization that, wow, that's what you do with the slingshot? Oh, very cool. So, yeah, there you go. So you put that in there and pretend that he's, slinging things, if you will. So I would caution, be very careful with this. It is tiny. It fits, at least in my copy, it fits very securely in his hands, so I'm not worried about it falling out. It's not going to go anywhere, but just do keep in mind that because of the color and the size, it blends in really easy with many things, so just be careful not to lose it. But yeah, that's pretty cool. As far as anything else, he doesn't really have any blast effect ports. He doesn't have any blast effect compatibility. There's not much else that you're going to do with this guy as far as the accessories go. He just looks cool slinging things. So yeah, with that being said, what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and we'll get into the transformation. We'll get him into his alt mode and we'll take a look at him from there. What a cool little alt mode. I really like this little Core-Class Wheelie. He looks so cool. This just totally encapsulates him. I think he looks really good in this mode, and I wanted to throw him on the turntable to give you that full 360 before we really start handling the figure. My single biggest complaint in this alt mode is just the fact that he's got his fists hanging out the back. Even then, I'm not too concerned about it. A little nitpicky, I would have liked to have seen the front and the back wheel hubs match. For those of you who've watched the channel before, you know that's one of the things that I typically complain about anyway, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But yeah, he just looks good. This is just a good looking little core class alt mode. I love it. He's adorable. So real quick, we'll take a look at some of those details. There's not a lot you can do with this guy here. There's no articulation or anything to speak of. But just looking at him from the top there, you can see everything comes together looking pretty good. That front, he's got a little bit of a grill going on right there, which is nice. And then you've got the side profile, looks pretty good. The back, it's not bad. Like I say, just those fists, been my biggest issue. And then over here, it's the same thing. Underneath, this is what he looks like, all compacted up. And if you really didn't know what you were looking for, it would just look like a little Hot Wheels kind of car. Now, as far as weapon storage go, let's go ahead and weapon storage goes. Let's go ahead and cover that. So you do have your weapon storage right up here underneath that butt flap. So you've got a hole in there, and if I can pull it off, because it's not the easiest thing to get to. Let me try with this direction. Watch me struggle. And you just plug it in, and there we go. Sorry, I'm doing it all off camera. Yeah, you just plug it in right there, and then your slingshot is just there. And sure, why not? Let's pretend they're exhaust, you know? So, boom, there you go. I think he looks good. I like him. So now that we've got him into his alt mode here, and we've taken a look at his details, let's go ahead and get into those alt mode comparisons and see how he stacks up against some other things out there in the universe. Let's go ahead and jump into those alt mode comparisons. Unfortunately, I do not have a G1 wheelie. It would be really great if I did, but I don't. So as a substitution, I'm bringing in my G1 Bumblebee so you can see how those two guys stack up together. Moving on to our next comparison, this is the Core-Class Hot Rod figure. Now this was released as both a Kingdom release and a Legacy release. Technically speaking, this is my Legacy Core-Class Hot Rod, but they're the exact same thing between Kingdom and Legacy, so take your pick there, but you can see how those two stack up in size. And for our final alt mode comparison, here we see Wheelie next to the Legends scaled Bumblebee from the Bayverse films. That's going to do it for the alt mode comparisons. Let's get this guy transformed back into his bot mode. We'll do some comparisons there. For our first spot comparison, this is Wheelie on the left, of course, and on the right is the G1 Bumblebee, who is standing in for my substitute since I don't have a G1 Wheelie to compare against. Next up is a legend-scaled Bumblebee figure from the Bayverse movie series. For a fellow Core-Class and 1986 movie comparison, this is the Core-Class Hot Rod, Kingdom or Legacy. Take your pick. For a wheelie on wheelie comparison, this is the wheelie that came with the Studio Series Leader Class Grimlock. And yeah, I'll let you guys to decide, but I think we have a clear winner here between the two wheelies. Speaking of that Leader Class Grimlock from the 86 Studio Series line, here he is. And yeah, I think these two guys scale up pretty well together. I can totally see this Core-Class wheelie being partnered up with Grimlock here. I think they complement each other very well. But there you go, from a sense of scale, gives you an idea of what you're working with on this guy. All right, that's going to do it for the bot mode comparisons. I would try to end this section on a rhyme, but I think we're out of time. That's my little homage to Wheelie there. Don't mind me, I'm just in my own little world. Anyway, let's get on to the final thoughts. So there you have the Studio Series Core-Class Autobot Wheelie from the 86 movie. And I think this is a cool little figure. He's definitely one you're going to want to pick up. Just a whole lot of fun here and a great nostalgia. Probably one of the better Core-Class figures that are out there right now. Let's go ahead and jump into it. We'll start with the aesthetics. Overall looks of this guy, he just looks great. He was built for the Core-Class. He's just a little guy anyway, so it makes perfect sense that he would be a Core-Class figure, and he just fits right in and does a great job in both modes. A couple of minor nitpicks. In the bot mode, he does have that butt flap back here. I would have liked to have seen them do something a little bit different than that butt flap. It just kind of limits that backwards leg movement unless you spread that leg out. And it's just mildly distracting from a viewpoint, if you will, or from just that overall look. But everything else is great. Car mode, or his alt mode, looks really good. Biggest complaint there is just going to be the fact that those fists are just hanging off the back rear end of the car. Kind of, I guess if you want to pretend, I guess you could think of them as like bumpers. But other than that, both modes look fantastic. So I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10 on the overall aesthetics. Moving on to articulation, he is done really well for a Core-Class. He could have had a few areas where they could have done a little bit better, but for the price point, for the size, I think he's done pretty well. He doesn't have anything at the wrist, nothing at the waist, and nothing at the ankle. Wrist and waist, you're not going to miss a whole lot, but I would have liked to have seen them integrate something in that ankle, give us some kind of ankle tilt. Would have gone a long way there. But I still think you're going to be able to get him into some decent poses, so I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 on articulation. Moving on to the accessories. He only comes with one. He's a Core-Class. It is what it is. It's his slingshot. That's what Wheelie has. That's what Wheelie uses. It's nothing fancy. It's a gray molded piece of plastic. There's no paint on it, but it is what it is. That's all I can really say about it. I'm not overly excited, but it gets the job done. I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10 on accessories. Moving on to overall quality. I have no issues with this guy. All of his joints, at least for now, are tight. The paint looks good. He came with everything that he was supposed to. Transforms and functions the way you would expect him to transform and move. Long term, I have concerns about those ball joints. Just don't like ball joints in general. But for now, everything is really good. Everything is really tight. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10 on overall quality. Taking us to our last bullet, which is overall value. Like I said, I think he's one of the better Core-Class figures that are out there. He fits. He does everything good. He looks good while he's doing it. So I really like this guy, and I think for the price point, there is a lot of value to be had here. Now, personally, I picked this guy up from bestbuy.com. It was an online purchase for $11. I didn't have any problems whatsoever paying that money for this figure. I was excited to get him, even more happy to have him in my hands and to be able to play with him and transform him. So I'm going to give him an overall value of 9 out of 10. I think the value's there for this guy for sure. So that brings us to a grand total out of a possible 50 points. The Core-Class Wheelie gets 41 out of 50. It puts him at 82%. It makes this guy an easy recommend from me. I think if you can find him, you're going to really enjoy this figure. So that's going to do it for the review. I hope you guys got some good information out of this. I hope you were entertained, and if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. Feel free to leave some comments. I try to respond as often as I can. Life gets busy sometimes. And one last request is if you might know of anyone that might enjoy the channel or this figure or the videos in general, feel free to share that with them. It would help us a long way here at the channel. It would be very much appreciated. So with that, that's going to wrap it up. Until we see you guys in the next review, take care.